correctly.
Every year, around £52 billion is stolen from the UK's public purse. But up and down Britain, an army of fraud fighters is battling to win it back.
This money should really have been used to pay for the essential services that all of us use every day. Benefit fraud does not pay.
What it effectively is people stealing money from you and I.
This is a huge amount of money and it's disgraceful.
From paying for the police and our health service, filling in potholes and emptying our dustbins, to making sure everyone has a roof over their head.
£2 million means an awful lot, but it was just the tip of the iceberg.
So it's absolutely disgusting what they do.
The investigators' mission has never been more vital.
Blatant lies just to claim benefits.
And the only thing I could put it down to is greed.
This is not a victimless crime. This is coming out of the public purse.
We will not let it go. We're like dogs with bones.
You will be found, you will be investigated, and ultimately you will be prosecuted.
The Fraud Squad are on the case.
Today, HMRC investigators are on the hunt for a crooked conman stealing millions of pounds of public money.
He had a significant amount of money with which to fund his lifestyle, to move about and to try to keep one step ahead of us.
A shameless fraudster lines her own pockets with council cash.
This fraud went on for such a lengthy period of time that the tenant probably thought that she'd got away with it.
And a woman cheats and lies to bag thousands in bogus benefits.
All money has got to be paid back to the public purse. £16,000 would go a long way to supporting a genuinely vulnerable family.
More than 32 million of us pay income tax each year. It's vital money that funds the public services we all rely on. But our first case is the ultimate inside job, an abuse of the tax system by a greedy group of fraudsters stealing millions to fund a life of luxury.
That money should have gone to HMRC, and none of it did. Part of it went offshore and into personal accounts of those involved in the fraud.
Alison is a senior fraud investigator at HMRC. She knows our tax money is vital in keeping essential services going.
Living in the UK, we're really lucky. We have services provided, education, health. In order to maintain that, it's really important that everyone pays their way and pays what they should do.
The money that's collected is there to support people who need it most.
Everyone pays what they should pay, so that those that need a little bit of extra help from the benefits system, perhaps, are able to get that. That's what the money HMRC collects is for.
Her next case will be one of the biggest of Alison's career. Payroll scams, tax evasion, fleeing to the other side of the world. This fraudster will stop at nothing to fund his life of luxury. It all starts with a routine inspection at a recruitment firm.
The officers that went out weren't happy with some of the invoices that they saw. There was 12 invoices in particular from one company that looked suspect, if you like.
The invoices lead investigators to the company's accountancy firm based in Rochester. The firm Keepers looks after payroll services on behalf of clients in the construction industry.
So the services are basically around the completion of the wage records of those employed in the construction industry. If you think of a site, for example, a football stadium, you may have 5,000 people working there. Each would have a different job, each would earn a different amount of money. So Keepers would come in and say, we can run your payroll for you, we can pay the tax at the right time for the people that are employed, and then they would earn money for the provision of that service.
It's a service that hundreds of accountancy firms offer, but something about Keepers' records just doesn't add up. They've been deducting tax from employees' wages, but the money hasn't made its way to the public purse.
The anomalies were the amounts shown as tax, and where those amounts that were tax should have ended up. They didn't end up with HMRC.
So where's the missing money? A fraud investigation is launched, and it's time to pay keepers a visit.
The first anomaly found by the officers who went out to check the books, that was 12 invoices.
The 12 suspect invoices lead investigators to bank accounts controlled by the man who set up keepers, Mike Hughes. In less than 10 months, the accounts have received payments of nearly £12 million, all from clients of Keeper's payroll scheme.
£12 million. £10 million of that was wages, which was paid, but £2 million was diverted.
A staggering £2 million has been siphoned off into accounts set up by Mike Hughes instead of being paid to HMRC. Staff and subcontractors working for Keeper's clients assume they've been paying their taxes, but they're being cheated, just like the public purse. When Alison's team investigate Hughes further, they're in for a surprise.
Mike Hughes used to work for the Inland Revenue, left and set up accountancy taxation service companies.
The team can't believe what they're learning. The owner of this potentially corrupt company used to be one of them. Mike Hughes' history as a former Inland Revenue officer puts him in a unique position.
So that background would bring knowledge of HMRC's systems or revenue systems, where taxes needed to be paid, either PAYE, national insurance contributions, and with a particular concentration towards construction industry.
There's nothing illegal about setting up shop in the private sector, but Hughes is using his expert knowledge to abuse the system.
Gradually, as the investigation progressed, it became clear that rather than providing payroll services, completing tax returns and paying taxes, the individuals involved had set up what we would call shadow companies.
It's a classic fraudster tactic. Set up fake shadow companies to run the money through, while hijacking the details of a genuine company with a similar name to issue invoices that look legit.
In this case, there are legitimate companies that were providing labour services. What the fraudsters did, they set up company bank accounts and changed just 1 or 2 letters in those company names, set up completely fictitious or shadow companies and diverted the money. It's almost like putting a step between the fraudster and what they've done to try and hide it from the investigators.
It's clear proof that Keepers has been acting illegally. But just as Alison's case is coming together, there's a shocking development.
About 3 weeks after the visits to assure the records of the Keepers' businesses, Mike Hughes left the country and fled to Chile.
Hughes has taken his family and fled, leaving their entire life behind. Hardly the actions of an innocent man. Alison and her team continue to build the case.
We've got the invoices that aren't right, we don't think they're right, but then we're looking at the money that moves behind it. Quite often in fraud, it's the movement of the money that's very important to work out who's done what, where and when. So from the bank accounts and the analysis of the flow of the money, what came in, what was going out, it was fairly evident that there wasn't any going out to HMRC.
The team know this fraud runs to at least £2 million, but could this just be the tip of the iceberg? Hughes and his colleagues have cleverly used their expert knowledge to hide the full extent of their fraud. Alison and the team have to forensically dissect the company's accounts.
So what we've got here are examples of invoices fabricated to add credence to what appears to be the payments of wages, PAYE, the construction industry scheme payments, with a total of tax at the bottom. This This is part of the smoke screen to hide the fact that all that really was happening here was that money was being stolen.
Invoices issued to Keeper's clients appear to show tax contributions for their employees. But although they've been deducted from the employees' wages, the money was never paid to HMRC. Instead, they were lining the pockets of Mike Hughes to fund his luxury lifestyle.
This is creating a paper trail to lead HMRC away from the actual facts, which is that these amounts are being paid, but those shown as tax, PAYE, national insurance, VAT, are actually just being siphoned off into private bank accounts.
It's proof that Keepers has been stealing workers' tax contributions. Alison and her team have seen enough. They decide to raid Keepers' offices.
It was the nerve centre. It's where the fraud was orchestrated, where the papers were generated for the false submissions or the lack of submissions for tax, for VAT, PAYE, and the construction industry scheme. Principally, the evidence from the office was the computers.
The computers are taken away for analysis, while the search for more evidence continues. And they don't have to look far, this time in the office of one of the company's partners, Akil Ahmed.
Behind the seat of Ahmed was a pile of mail that should not, on the face of it, been there. There should have been no connection between Ahmed and those businesses. So that already suspicion had grown that there was an absolute connection there. Why had he got mail for businesses unconnected to the Keepers Group on his desk or behind his desk?
The pile of letters are from shadow companies. They confirm the team's suspicions that Ahmed is in on the scam, but they need to dig deeper to see just how far the fraud goes. Later, as the investigation ramps up, the case becomes bigger than the team could ever have imagined.
$2 million means an awful lot, but it was actually, in this case, just the tip of the iceberg.
For many, social housing is a vital safety net that provides a lifeline for people with nowhere else to go. But in our next case, one desperate council tenant who was pleading poverty has been busy making a pretty penny off a property she owns just up the road.
The tenant had a mortgage on a property which she didn't live in. We will take a zero-tolerance policy against any housing fraud in our borough.
Gemma Young is a Director of Anti-Fraud Services at 2 North London councils. She works tirelessly protecting the boroughs from being exploited by callous fraudsters.
My job involves investigating all types of fraud against the public purse in Enfield and Waltham Forest. Fraudsters may see the public sector as an easy target. However, we have access to lots of information that they may not be aware of, and we use this information and work with other councils to proactively detect fraud in our boroughs.
Gemma knows that every penny she saves for the public purse makes a difference, and isn't afraid to pursue fraudsters for everything they owe.
What that means is that we can claim back any money that has been obtained as a result of criminal activity.
This case begins when the council tax department get in touch to say they're trying to trace the owner of a property on Gemma's patch.
A house had been rented out in Waltham Forest and the tenant had left, and the council tax department were attempting to trace the landlord of the property.
The council want to sort out who is responsible for paying council tax now the old tenant has left. It should be a fairly routine inquiry.
The Revenues officer who referred the case to us had carried out some checks on the rented property and found that the landlord was actually a person who had been given temporary accommodation and then a secure tenancy on a council property by Waltham Forest.
The owner of the house is also claiming to be homeless and in desperate need of a council house. Something doesn't add up, so Gemma's team take a closer look.
We had an application from this person for temporary accommodation. They presented to the council as homeless, and their circumstances deemed that they met the criteria to be housed by us.
Gemma's team discover that 10 years ago, on the original application for council housing, the applicant claimed to be living on the street. The team need to prove that the property owner and the woman claiming homelessness are the same person.
This was discovered by a check with the land registry, which confirmed the name of the landlord. A credit check was then made against this name, which again confirmed that the person concerned not only owned the property, but also had a council tenancy in another part of the borough.
It's clear evidence the woman has been scamming the system, claiming money from the council to put her up when she already owns a property. But for just how long has she been conning the council for?
At the same time that the applicant was applying to the council as needing accommodation, she was also in fact completed on a property. And that property sale completed 4 months after she had applied to the council for temporary accommodation.
The homeowner has been approved for a mortgage at exactly the same time she's been pleading poverty to the council, claiming taxpayer money with one hand while getting the key to her own home with the other.
That property was purchased as a buy-to-let investment property. The applicant never lived in that property and she immediately rented it out to private tenants.
It looks like she only bought the house to make money, and plenty of it. Gemma and her team discover the property makes £800 a month in rent. Over the last decade, she could have earned as much as £100,000 from it.
She was not only covering the mortgage, but she was also making a profit on top of paying the mortgage on that property.
It's a long way from being homeless and in desperate need of council support.
If the applicant for housing already owns a property, it is very unlikely that they will be housed by the council.
This woman lives in a borough with a waiting list of more than 7,000 people, and she's cheated someone in need out of a potential home.
This applicant was in a position where she was fortunate enough to be able to purchase a property, and the council would no longer have had a duty to house her and could have allocated housing to people more in need.
When anyone applies for council housing, they have to fill in a series of forms. This gives the council a picture of their finances and personal circumstances so they can decide if they qualify for a council property.
This is the tenancy agreement for the council housing, which the tenant obtained by deception when she had already purchased another property which she used as a buy-to-let property.
She's filled in the form claiming she's got nowhere to go, when in fact she's renting out a property worth more than £200,000. And her scheming ways don't end there.
The tenant was in fact living in the council property and she owned the other property but had not declared it either to the council or to the Department for Work and Pensions as part of her housing benefit claims.
The investigators discover that the suspect has been claiming housing benefit and dodging council tax for over a decade, to the tune of £75,000. She's been living in a 4-bed property worth £500,000 and letting taxpayers foot the bill for the lot. It's vital money that should be going into the council's coffers to help people in genuine need.
While the housing benefit claim was being reassessed, we continued to investigate the other elements of the case in order to build up a picture of the tenant.
Later, as the team dig deeper, they find the fraudster has even more scams up her sleeve.
At the time of the application, the tenant would have been entitled to a discount of £105,000 on that property, all of which is funded by the public purse.
In the UK, there are around 3 million single-parent families. It's a tough job, and some parents need financial support. But in our next case, rather than using the helping hand, one mum is abusing it to steal thousands, all for her own gain.
The benefit system is a financial safety net for people in financial difficulty, so for it to be taken advantage of in this way is very serious.
Cornwall, home to Department of Work and Pensions investigator Tracy Osmond. She's built a career out of catching benefit claimants who are brazenly pocketing money meant for those who need it most.
I love being a fraud investigator. It gets me up every day, it really motivates me. It's challenging, it's interesting, there's always something different.
At her offices in Bodmin, Tracy's received an anonymous call tipping her off about a potential fraudster. The woman is said to be living locally with her long-term partner and their 2 children.
It's significant she was living with a partner because she had been awarded income support on the basis that she was single, and the entitlement is calculated on her being single. Had she been living with a partner, that would have also been taken into account, as would any household income. But she was claiming she wasn't working, she was living on her own, and she had 2 children to care for as a sole parent.
Income support is a financial lifeline for many single parents. But is this mum actually entitled to everything she's claiming? To find out if she's on the fiddle, Tracy needs to know if she's really living alone or with a partner, and she knows a great place to look for clues.
We can get a really good gauge of how people live their lives by looking at social media. We would be looking for any special occasions spent together, maybe engagements or Christmas, birthday, family photos. Sometimes they might say they live together on social media but haven't declared it to the department.
But after trawling the web, Tracy's drawn a blank.
When we checked, there was not much to corroborate the allegation at that point, except for a photograph of the couple together.
Determined to uncover the truth, Tracy tries a different path to determine whether the suspect is single or actually living with a partner.
When we contacted the alleged partner's employer, they advised us that on record he had provided the customer's address as his home address, and he had also recorded her as his next of kin, and also a fiancé. So there was a lot there linking him to her and her address.
This is a major breakthrough for Tracy. She does some more digging and finds out the alleged partner has given the same address and details to no fewer than 8 previous employers. All the signs are there to suggest the tip-off is true, but Tracy knows she still needs more evidence to prove it.
In the next stage of the investigation, we would obtain bank statements to establish financial links between the 2 parties. We found that during the period that the customer was claiming benefit, the alleged partner's wages were being paid into the customer's account. So that gave us the tie between the alleged partner and the customer, so that then we could further our investigation and prepare for surveillance.
With money coming in from her partner's job, Tracy's now certain that the suspect's claiming cash she's not entitled to. So to prove beyond any reasonable doubt that the couple are living together, covert camera teams set up outside the claimant's house.
So what we got from this surveillance was a pattern, really. He was leaving the household early in the morning, coming back late in the evening, sometimes between 5 and 7 o'clock at night, always going back to the same address. So this made it quite clear he didn't have another household to go home to, and this is his main residence. This is the customer's house, and this is the alleged partner leaving the household. This is at 5 to 8 in the morning, so it looks like he's possibly doing the school run. We can see him taking out a trailer that's kept next to the garden, hitching it up. I mean, he seems to know his way around pretty well. He's hitching it up to the family car, and he's joined with the children there as well. It's obviously part of the family. This was all taking place 5 o'clock in the evening. So we see he keeps his trailer there, he keeps his motorbike there. It's all building up a picture that he's not just visiting.
All the evidence suggests that the man is living at this address full time, but Tracy needs to be absolutely certain.
We conducted surveillance for a full week, and he was there every morning, every evening, and then did some random dates following that just to see if it was a 1 week, one off, and it was the same pattern. He continued to still be there.
Along with the incriminating bank records, Tracy's convinced this video footage is enough to prove the two are living together as a couple. It's time to bring her suspect in for questioning, but will she come clean about her bogus benefit claims?
At the interview under caution, the customer denied all of the allegations, said that she didn't have a partner living with her. She did have a father to her children who visited, but that he didn't stay over.
Tracy's now ready to play her trump card, the covert camera footage.
When she was shown the surveillance footage, she suddenly became very upset and said she had a doctor's appointment, and we had to conclude the interview at that stage.
It's a frustrating setback for Tracy, but her investigation isn't over. 2 weeks later, the woman returns for round 2 to give her version of the story.
At the second interview, we asked her partner about him paying his wages into her account, which she denied at that point. We then showed her copies of the bank schedules showing the payments from his wages into her bank account, and we also showed her evidence of him working. It was at this point that she broke down, and she did admit that he was living there and that he had been working.
Faced with the undeniable evidence, it's time for the crooked claimant to finally face the music.
Because of the size of the overpayment, we decided to prosecute. Prosecution took place here at Bodmin Magistrates Court, where the customer entered a guilty plea, was awarded 3 months curfew and ordered to pay all of the money back.
In total, over £16,000 worth of fraudulently claimed cash will now be paid back into the benefit system.
That's a key part for us, because £16,000 would go a long way to supporting a genuinely vulnerable family. And it sends out a clear message to other people that might be thinking of doing the same kind of thing. All money has got to be paid back to the public purse.
Back in the capital, HMRC investigators are closing in on a corrupt accountancy firm. The firm's owner, former HMRC employee, Mike Hughes, has shamelessly used his insider knowledge to swindle millions of pounds of workers' tax contributions from the public purse.
They did provide the service of paying wages to those working in the industries, but they didn't pay the correct amount of tax. In fact, what they did, they diverted it for their own use.
Hughes has fled the country and is on the run. But Alison and her team are not giving up. After a raid on the firm's premises, Alison is hoping analysis of their computers will provide crucial evidence. As they wait for the results, their attention turns to another discovery made in the search. One of the company's partners, Akil Ahmed, had a suspicious pile of post addressed to a nearby business park.
A current tactic used by fraudsters is to try to distance themselves from the actual business office that they're using, the premises or the home address perhaps, by using what we term as a mail drop. So they might hire just a mailbox or a whole unit in which parcels under which post is delivered, rather than to the actual address that they're trading from, or the business address or the home address.
Alison and the team suspect the business park is the fraudster's mail drop, but need to find something that links the address directly to the accountancy firm.
Who'd taken out the lease on it, who was paying the money to use that facility. All that helped to build the picture against the fraudsters here.
They look into who is renting the property. It's none other than Mike Hughes.
There was a company set up by Hughes to look after the lease of the premises, and it was in a down at heel place.
When investigators speak to the building's owners, they confirm Hughes does rent an office. But he's not the one collecting the post. Instead, witnesses describe Hughes's business partner, Akil Ahmed, and he's not exactly been keeping a low profile.
Some very observant witness had seen one of our subjects, Mr. Ahmed, picking up the mail for companies he shouldn't have been connected to in his Maserati.
This links Akil Ahmed to the fake shadow company address set up to deceive HMRC. And when the analysis of the computers seized during the raid on the firm's offices comes back, investigators finally have their smoking gun.
You will see are immediately spelt incorrectly from the company there in southeast London. The same spelling mistake, it's precisely the same format on an invoice purporting to be from a business in London North 20. So it was how we did the fraud type moment, the false invoices that clearly were created by the same person, using the same template with very little imagination, but that couldn't spell the word immediately.
It's a crucial development. The spelling mistakes suggest Ahmed is duplicating the invoices, giving bogus accounts to HMRC, while faking them for a shadow company that submits the returns.
They are mirrors of legitimate businesses' invoices. The big difference here is at the bottom, there's a bank account and sort code. That bank account and sort code does not belong to the legitimate business. It's in fact a way of siphoning the money to the fraudsters. Everyone paying their tax, everyone contributing their national insurance at the end of the day. This group of individuals stole £7 million of that pot.
It's an astonishing amount of money, £7 million. That should have been paying for vital public services. The true extent of the fraud committed by Mike Hughes and Akil Ahmed is now clear. But they're not working alone. Spreadsheets the pair have been keeping lead the team to a company insider who's in on the scam. Victor Shearer is a director at a construction firm.
The table there shows us, over a 3-month period, Victor Shearer's cut of this fraud was £155,000. He's got that from allowing his own businesses and introducing other businesses into this fraud.
Shearer was happy to go along with the scam, so long as he got his cut, paid for with taxpayers' cash. All thanks to Hughes and Ahmed keeping a well-maintained spreadsheet.
The best thing about it is, of course, it's something that's helped us prove the case against them. It's meticulous keeping of records of a fraud on a week-by-week basis.
Alison and her team have enough to charge both Ahmed and Shearer. And while they build the case against his associates at home, Alison continues to hunt for Mike Hughes.
We tracked him through a number of countries. I think the important thing here is he obviously had the resources to keep moving on, to move him. It wasn't only himself and his family from place to place, hoping perhaps that HMRC wouldn't catch up with him.
He's spending public money to fund a luxury life abroad. But how long before the cash and Mike Hughes's luck runs out?
He had a significant amount of money, millions of pounds, with which to fund his lifestyle, to move about and to try to keep one step ahead of us.
When Ahmed and Shearer appear in court, they try to blame everything on Mike Hughes.
Well, there's a natural defence there for everyone else. I just did as I was told. It wasn't me, it was him. So the case team had to work particularly hard on the investigation to show, yes, of course, Mr. Hughes was involved. Yes, of course, he was the puppet master, if you like. However, each of the 3 individuals played a really important role, and each took a cut from this fraud.
Ahmed pleads guilty after seeing the strength of the case against him, and Shearer is found guilty by the jury. Shearer gets 7.5 years in jail and Ahmed 7 years and 8 months, meaning only the man at the top of the conspiracy, Mike Hughes, remains at large.
He's been on the run by this stage for 7 years. He's been living off the money he's stolen from the taxpayer.
But suddenly, after 7 years on the run in Chile, Dubai and Cyprus, HMRC learns Hughes has booked a flight back to the UK.
Whether that's because the money he's stolen has started to run out, whether it's because his passport actually was starting to run out, and how can he legitimately get a new passport? Who knows?
Whatever his reasons, Mike Hughes is finally within Alison and the team's sights, and they'll be ready for him.
The officers became aware that Mr. Hughes was due to fly into the UK and were there to meet him with police. And Mr. Hughes was arrested, taken into custody.
And after 7 years building a case against a man on the run, it's a relief for Alison and the team.
It is a good feeling. He's home, we've got him, we can see justice done, we can get some of that money back that he's stolen.
Hughes is charged and the case goes to court. And in contrast to all the time taken chasing him across the globe, it doesn't take long for the jury to reach a verdict.
I think it only took an hour because the case built against Mr. Hughes was pretty much impenetrable. His explanations for others perpetrating the fraud rather than him were not credible. He was not credible. In a way, I suppose, skipping the UK while the heat's just starting to be on may have been a factor. It's certainly the case that it didn't stop the investigators just building the case as if he was here.
Hughes is found guilty of money laundering, false accounting, and conspiracy to cheat the revenue. He receives 9.5 years in jail. Between them, Hughes, Ahmed and Shearer are responsible for nearly £7 million lost from the public purse. And for Alison and her team, it's a decade of work that's all been worth it in the end.
The cherry on the cake, it was when Mr. Hughes turned up in the UK and was dealt with. So from start to finish, it was 10 years, and it was 10 years of committed, hard teamwork.
In London, investigators are on the case of a brazen fraudster who's been claiming she's homeless to get a £500,000 council property, when in fact she's renting out her own home just up the road. But the fraud squad are ready to bring the house down on her dishonest claims.
Director of Anti-Fraud Services, Gemma Young, is in charge of the case.
There was no record that the tenant had ever told us that she owned another property. We also found on occasions that she appeared to have actively concealed her ownership of that property.
The woman has been lying to the council and covering her tracks for over a decade. But what else has she been concealing?
We also found that she had provided different information to the mortgage company in order to enable her purchase of the property to proceed. If she had provided that information to the council, she would not have qualified for housing benefit or council housing.
She's been telling the mortgage company one thing to make her eligible to borrow, whilst at the same time claiming poverty to the council in order to receive free accommodation. But she hasn't finished fiddling the system yet.
Not only did the tenant own another property, but also that she had now put in a right to buy application on the council property that she inhabited.
The right to buy scheme allows council tenants to purchase the property that they live in, usually with a big discount on the market value.
We reviewed the right to buy application and we found that there was false information on the application form, in that the tenant had not declared the other property which she owned. On
top of making £800 a month renting out the house she owns, The woman is also trying to buy her 4-bed council property and plans to use the government's right to buy scheme to do so. It's worth £500,000, but if the application is approved, she stands to make a substantial saving.
At the time of the application, the tenant would have been entitled to a discount of £105,000 on that property, all of which is funded by the public purse.
After a decade of deceit, the suspect is still trying to play the system, buying a property she obtained through deception in the first place and has no right to be living in.
The fact that the tenant had provided different information to the mortgage advisor and to the council, and due to the fact that the tenant appeared to have concealed her ownership of the right to buy property, we cancelled the right to buy application and required the tenant to leave the property, as we now had enough evidence to support the allegation that the tenant had obtained the council property by deception.
The deceitful tenant's lies have finally caught up with her. Gemma and the team have now built a strong case against her.
During the interview under caution, the tenant claimed that she had no financial interest or benefit from the buy-to-let property. She claimed that it was owned by someone else in actuality and was held in trust for her children, and therefore she had no interest or benefit.
She claims she doesn't own it, but Gemma has an ace up her sleeve: the land registry document for the house.
This is conclusive proof that the tenant owned a property which she let out to private tenants. There was no deed of trust registered at the land registry, which would be a requirement should the property be held in trust for anyone else.
It's proof she is the owner of the house that's made nearly £100,000 in rent over the last decade. The woman refuses to answer any more questions.
Following the interview under caution, we requested more information regarding the trust from the tenant. However, this was never forthcoming.
She's charged with 10 counts of benefit fraud and 1 charge of obtaining property by deception, but pleads not guilty. After a trial at Snaresbrook Crown Court, she's found guilty on all counts and is sentenced to 18 months in prison, suspended for 2 years. In total, the 10-year stay at the property she wasn't entitled to has cost the council £175,000. Money that should have been spent housing people who genuinely need a roof above their heads. For Gemma and her team, it's a job well done, proving fraudsters trying to exploit the system will be caught and made to pay the price when they are.
This fraud went on for such a lengthy period of time that the tenant probably thought that she'd got away with it. The council then instigated proceeds of crime proceedings against the tenant, and what that means is that we can claim back any money that has been obtained as a result of criminal activity. We also now have possession of the property, and it will be used to house a family in genuine need in the borough.
Join us again when the fraud squad continue their fight.
It makes me feel empowered to target these individuals and really go after them.
Bringing wrongdoers to justice and defending the public purse.
We work together to prosecute these kind of offences, and we won't stop.
It's those people that we really want to bring to justice, and nobody is beyond our reach.
Watch more episodes now on iPlayer. Just press red, or catch Michelle back here tomorrow morning when the series continues at 10 on BBC One. What a load of rubbish. The refuse collector who's full of lies on Claimed and Shamed next.